Power has never been about showing the truth of who you are. The ones who rise to the top rarely walk naked into the light of judgment. They wear armor stitched not from steel but from words, illusions, and carefully crafted appearances. The mask is more real than the face, because the face is fragile and exposed, while the mask is indestructible as long as others believe in it. Every leader, every conqueror, every manipulator who has held sway over men understood this simple law. Honesty is dangerous, and truth is a liability. People crave certainty, but they also crave mystery. They want a figure to believe in, even if that figure is a lie. In fact, the lie becomes stronger than the person because it survives beyond their failures and imperfections. Without a mask, power collapses under the weight of human weakness. With the mask, weakness is never seen, and therefore it does not exist. The strong understand this, and so they never step forward as themselves. They step forward as the image they have chosen to become. The mask rules, and the man behind it merely obeys. And yet the brilliance of this deception is that most will never call it a lie. They will call it charisma, or leadership, or vision. They will say, "This is what greatness looks like." But what they are admiring is not greatness. It is the mask, carefully crafted to look like greatness, hiding all the shadows beneath. This is why lies protect the strong, because without them, the truth would be too small, too flawed, too human to command the devotion of others. Power requires a costume, and only those willing to wear it are remembered. The danger of truth is that it makes you vulnerable in ways you cannot control. Imagine standing before the world with every flaw exposed, every fear visible, every failure etched onto your skin. The crowd will not forgive you. They will not respect your honesty. They will devour it, because the masses are not merciful. They are wolves looking for blood, waiting for weakness to justify their contempt. The strong understand this, and so they never present their real selves to the judgment of the crowd. Instead, they present the version of themselves that cannot be wounded, the image that cannot be pierced. This is why the mask is not cowardice, it is survival. The man who insists on being himself in the arena of power will be torn apart by those sharper, colder, and more calculating than he is. Lies become a shield against this destruction. Lies allow the strong to craft their narrative, to dictate how they are seen, to ensure that only the controlled version of their story is allowed into the minds of others. In truth, the mask is not only a defense, it is an offense. It strikes before the blade of doubt can cut. It sets the terms of the game before the opponent even knows he is playing. The lie is not accidental. It is deliberate, strategic, and precise. To wield it effectively is to become untouchable. History remembers kings and generals not as they were, but as they appeared. And so the strong live beyond themselves, immortalized by illusions more enduring than flesh. This is why the man behind the mask becomes irrelevant. Only the mask is remembered. The man dies. The mask rules forever. There is a hidden cruelty in the fact that people beg for lies even as they pretend to hate them. The masses cry for truth, yet they cannot handle the sight of it without turning away in disgust. They need the mask because the mask comforts them, gives them someone to believe in, something larger than themselves to follow. And so the strong do not impose lies upon unwilling subjects. They simply provide the illusions that people are already desperate to consume. This is the secret bargain of power. The strong agree to wear the mask, and the weak agree to pretend it is real. Both sides know it is false, but both depend on it. Without the mask, chaos erupts. for naked truth is unbearable. Imagine a ruler who confesses uncertainty, a leader who admits fear, a warrior who displays doubt. Such confessions may be human, but they dissolve authority instantly. The crowd does not want the human. They want the symbol, the illusion of certainty, the figure who looks unbreakable even when he is. That is why lies are not just protection for the strong. They are protection for the world itself, because the truth would destabilize the illusions that hold order together. The strong carry this burden, knowing that power demands deception, and those who refuse to lie are consumed by their honesty. This is why greatness always wears a mask. It is not a decoration, not a choice, but the first and final condition of power. Lies protect the strong, not only from others, but from the fragility of truth itself. And when the mask finally becomes indistinguishable from the man, he is no longer hiding. He has become the lie, and in doing so, he becomes untouchable. Truth is praised as a virtue, but in the arena of survival, it is a blade that cuts deepest into those who wield it without caution. The naive cling to honesty as if it were proof of their purity, yet it becomes the very rope they hand to others to bind them. To reveal the truth of your fears, your weaknesses, your desires, is to expose the map of your vulnerabilities. And once the map is drawn, someone stronger, colder, and more calculating will always trace the lines and strike. Children are told that honesty makes them noble, but nobility does not keep you safe. Nobility has always been devoured by the ruthless. The truth, once spoken, cannot be recalled. It leaves your lips and enters the ears of those who may not deserve it. And suddenly what was private becomes weaponized. This is why the strong rarely speak without calculation. Their words are never uncontrolled, never naked confessions. They understand that to bleed truth before the wrong audience is to invite vultures to feast. Honesty is only safe in a world where mercy exists, but the strong know the world is merciless. And so truth becomes a weakness, and lies become protection. To tell the truth carelessly is to disarm yourself in front of an armed enemy. The naive never see this until it is too late, and by then their honesty has already destroyed them. This is why those who survive do not speak truth. They shape it, bend it, and hide it. The strong understand that truth is only useful when weaponized, and only dangerous when surrendered. The world has always belonged to liars more than it has belonged to saints. From the halls of kings to the offices of power, it is the half-truths, the veiled promises, and the polished illusions that secure dominance. The naive imagine that if they simply speak their truth, others will respect them for it. But the world does not reward authenticity, it rewards control. When a man bears his truth, he gives away leverage. He shows others what he values, what he fears losing, and what breaks him. And once others know where you break, they will press until you shatter. This is the cruelty of human nature. People do not always seek connection with your truth. Often they seek to use it against you. The strong understand this and therefore ration their honesty. They reveal only what strengthens their mask, never what exposes the cracks beneath. To them, truth is not a moral compass, but a weapon, one that must be sharpened before use. They will tell the truth if it wounds their enemies or wins them trust, but never if it makes them vulnerable. This is why the strong rarely confess. They prefer silence, misdirection, or the carefully chosen lie that bends perception in their favor. To speak unguarded truth is to stand naked in the storm. To lie is to build shelter while others drown. The naive cling to purity and drown in it. while the strong learn to breathe beneath the mask. There is a tragic beauty in watching the naive fall on their own honesty. They believe the world will honor their openness, but instead it condemns them. They expect truth to inspire loyalty, but instead it inspires exploitation. They imagine honesty as a bridge, yet it becomes a noose. And still, the cycle repeats, because society feeds this illusion by preaching that truth is the highest virtue. In reality, truth is a luxury only the powerful can afford. The strong can reveal glimpses of truth when they choose, but only because their position protects them from the consequences. For everyone else, truth is dangerous. This is why the wise conceal it, why the cunning distort it, and why the ruthless weaponize it. Lies are not simply tools of manipulation. They are shields against a world that punishes exposure. To survive, one must accept that deception is not corruption but strategy, not weakness but strength. The naive refuse this lesson, clinging to the belief that honesty is enough, and they pay for it with broken trust, lost power, and shattered illusions. The strong, however, embrace the darkness of this truth, that honesty destroys those who cannot wield it carefully. They understand that silence can be louder than confession, and that a lie can sometimes protect more than the truth ever could. And so, in the ruthless calculus of survival, lies protect the strong while truth betrays the naive. Deception is not chaos. It is structure, designed with precision like the stones of a fortress. Every great power in history, from empires to corporations to dynasties, has been built not merely on force, but on illusions carefully engineered to hold people in place. Raw strength alone collapses, but strength wrapped in myth endures for centuries. This is the architecture of deception, the lies that form the scaffolding of order, the illusions that transform fear into loyalty and obedience. Consider religion, politics, even the stories nations tell themselves. None survive without their sacred myths, their necessary lies. A leader does not rise by confessing uncertainty. He rises by speaking with the voice of destiny. A state does not endure by admitting corruption. It survives by promising justice, even when justice is absent. A family does not function by exposing every hidden thought. It survives on the half-truths that keep peace at the dinner table. These structures are not accidents. They are deliberate, crafted and maintained by those who understand that the human mind does not thrive on truth. It thrives on meaning, and meaning is often born from illusion. The strong are not those who believe their own lies, but those who design them with purpose, those who know which truths to bury and which fictions to elevate. Deception is not weakness when it is shaped into architecture. It is strength, because it builds something larger than the individual. When the lies are repeated long enough, they cease to feel like lies at all. They become the air people breathe, the ground they walk on. The weak stumble in confusion when truth is concealed, but the strong are the architects, constructing the stage on which everyone else must perform. The brilliance of deception lies not in hiding everything, but in revealing just enough to make the illusion believable. An architect of lies understands that people do not need the whole truth. They need fragments that align with their desires, their fears, and their hunger for certainty. The strongest deceptions are those that give the crowd something to cling to, a pattern that feels real, even if it is carefully curated. Too much secrecy invites suspicion, but a carefully woven half-truth binds tighter than chains. This is why the strong are not reckless with lies. They craft them as an artist paints, layering color over color until the canvas becomes convincing. The most dangerous lie is not the outrageous one, but the one that feels closest to reality. In politics, this might appear as promises of prosperity, promises that conceal the inevitable exploitation beneath. In relationships, it appears as assurances of love that mask control or manipulation. In war, it is propaganda, designed not to reflect truth, but to create conviction strong enough to send men willingly to die. The architecture of deception is everywhere, not because the world is evil, but because it is unstable. An illusion provides stability. People are not enslaved by force alone. They are enslaved by the stories they choose to believe. And the strong know this. If you control the story, you control the people. Lies do not simply hide truth. They create reality itself, because perception governs action. The weak may rage against the deception, but by the time they see it, the walls of the fortress have already been built around them, and their resistance comes too late. What makes the architecture of deception so terrifying is its permanence. A simple lie can be exposed, but a system of lies, reinforced by culture, tradition, and repetition, becomes almost unbreakable. People inherit it without question, defend it as if it were truth, and pass it on to the next generation. This is how myths become nations, how ideologies become religions, and how illusions become the very laws of reality. The strong understand this principle and invest not in fleeting lies, but in enduring structures of belief. They do not waste energy convincing individuals. They shape environments, narratives, and institutions that train individuals to believe without question. Once the architecture is in place, deception no longer requires maintenance. It maintains itself, defended by those who live within it and depend on it for meaning. This is why the greatest powers of history outlive the men who built them. Because the lie has become a world, and the world resists destruction. The weak may cling to the fantasy that exposing a truth will collapse the structure, but exposure alone changes nothing when the lie is too deeply woven. People will deny what they see if it threatens the foundation of their reality. They will protect the illusion because without it, life becomes unbearable. And so the architecture of deception is not just protection for the strong. It is their greatest creation, their legacy. They understand that lies are not fragile. They are the bones of civilization itself. The strong survive not only because they lie, but because they build lies into fortresses, and in those fortresses, they rule unchallenged. Mercy is often mistaken for purity, but in the hands of the strong it is something darker, more deliberate, and far more dangerous. True mercy is never the absence of power. It is the calculated restraint of it. The man who spares another's life does not do so because of weakness. He does so because he knows what debt, loyalty, or fear can be harvested from sparing what could have been destroyed. Mercy becomes another mask, another weapon, cloaked in softness but sharpened with strategy. The strong understand that showing mercy can bind more effectively than chains, because it forces the spared to live with the knowledge of their own survival being owed to another's choice. Gratitude and humiliation fuse together, leaving the spared forever marked, forever reminded that their life was not their own to protect. This is why mercy is never innocent. It may look like compassion, but it is often a shadowed form of control, granting life not as a gift, but as a leash. The weak believe mercy is a sign of goodness, but goodness does not survive in the arena of power. Strategy does, and in the shadows of mercy, strategy thrives. The strong wield mercy the way they wield lies, sparingly, precisely, and only when it bends the will of others to their advantage. To understand this is to strip mercy of its illusions and to see it for what it is, not a moral triumph, but a weapon sheathed in kindness. The cruelty of mercy lies in the way it reshapes memory. When a conqueror spares his enemy, that mercy becomes part of the enemy's identity. They live not as equals, but as survivors, burdened by the fact that their existence is a constant reminder of their defeat. Mercy reshapes the mind, turning independence into indebtedness, turning pride into a scar. This is why the strong use mercy sparingly but effectively. It creates bonds that punishment could never achieve. To strike a man down is final. To let him live under your mercy is eternal. Every choice he makes afterward is haunted by the fact that he breathes because of you. Mercy does not erase violence. It amplifies it, reminding the spared that the violence could return at any moment. This is why it is such an effective tool of power. Nations use it when they allow conquered people to retain fragments of their culture. Leaders use it when they forgive betrayals publicly, appearing magnanimous while securing undying loyalty. Parents use it when they let disobedience pass, but make sure the child never forgets who controls the allowance of freedom. In all these cases, mercy is not love. It is architecture, a design of control that cloaks domination in tenderness. It softens the chains until they feel like gifts. The weak mistake this softness for virtue, but the strong know it is still steel, only hidden in velvet. Yet mercy has another function, one even more dangerous. It disguises power, making it invisible until it is too late. When the strong extend mercy, they create illusions of equality, allowing others to believe they are safe, forgiven, or free. But beneath the surface, the mercy is always conditional, always revocable. This illusion lulls the weak into comfort, making them dependent, even complacent. They forget the hand that spares them can just as easily strike. And when the blow finally comes, it destroys them more thoroughly than constant cruelty ever could. Mercy allows the strong to operate in shadows, appearing benevolent while remaining feared. It prevents rebellion by disguising control as kindness, by convincing people that their survival is not coerced but chosen. This is why the greatest rulers, the most cunning manipulators, are remembered not for their brutality alone, but for their moments of mercy. Those moments shine brighter in memory, obscuring the steel that held everything in place. But the truth is merciless. Their compassion was never pure, never without calculation. It was a shadow cast to hide the reality of their dominance. And when the world praises them for their generosity, it is not praising goodness at all. It is praising the brilliance of power hidden beneath the mask of mercy. Lies protect the strong, but so does mercy, because mercy itself is a lie, a distortion of reality crafted to bind tighter than fear ever could. Predators do not announce themselves. They do not step into the open with claws bared or teeth dripping. Instead, they approach in silence, wearing masks that soothe, promises that comfort, and faces that disarm. The true art of predation is concealment, and the strongest hunters in the world are not the ones who roar loudest, but the ones who convince their prey that there is nothing to fear. This is the predator's veil, the illusion woven so tightly that by the time the victim sees the danger, it is already far too late. The strong understand that deception is more powerful than confrontation. Raw violence is wasteful, noisy, and often resisted, but a well-crafted illusion disarms the mind before the body even thinks of resisting. The predator lulls the prey into safety, weaving stories of protection, promises of loyalty, visions of opportunity. And because the human mind hungers for hope more than it hungers for truth, the prey steps willingly into the trap. History is filled with conquerors who mastered this veil. They did not take power by force alone. They took it by convincing people to trust them, to believe in them, to see them as saviors. By the time the claws were revealed, resistance was impossible because the people had already built the cage around themselves. This is why the veil is more terrifying than the strike. It enslaves not through chains, but through belief. The weak always imagine that danger comes with warning, with shadows that give it away, but the strong know better. Danger smiles, comforts, and embraces. And when the prey finally realizes the truth, they are already inside the predator's jaws, unable to escape. This is the essence of the veil, not the violence of the attack, but the silence of its arrival. The predator's veil thrives because human beings are addicted to appearances. We believe what we see, what we hear, and most of all, what we want to be true. The strong exploit this flaw with precision, crafting images so convincing that reality bends beneath them. A ruler presents himself as merciful while plotting cruelty. A lover presents devotion while quietly feeding on control. A friend presents loyalty while sharpening the blade behind your back. These are not accidents. They are deliberate choices, woven into masks designed to keep others blind. The weak fall into these illusions because they long for safety, and the predator offers it in abundance. This is the paradox. Lies thrive not only because predators tell them, but because prey begs for them. People want to believe in stability, in kindness, in promises that soothe their fears. They want leaders to be noble, partners to be pure, and allies to be steadfast. The predator simply supplies these illusions, feeding the hunger until it blinds the prey completely. By the time doubt begins to surface, it is too late, for dependence has already taken root. The prey no longer questions because questioning would unravel the comfort they cling to, and so they defend the veil even against evidence of its falsehood, fighting to preserve the very illusion that enslaves them. The strong understand this mechanism intimately. They know that people do not seek truth, they seek reassurance. And once reassurance is given, the prey delivers themselves willingly into submission. This is the predator's genius, not to take, but to be given. To convince the world to open its own cage, lock the door, and hand over the key. What makes the predator's veil so devastating is that it does not merely trap the body, it corrodes the mind. When the truth is finally revealed, when the prey sees the claws hidden beneath the mask, the damage is already irreversible. The betrayal cuts deeper than violence ever could, because it shatters not only trust in the predator, but trust in oneself. The prey wonders how they could not have seen, how they could have been so blind, and the shame becomes part of their captivity. The predator knows this and uses it, for shame keeps the prey silent. Victims rarely speak, not because they cannot, but because admitting their blindness feels unbearable. This is why the predator's veil is so enduring. It silences resistance even after it is pierced. The prey becomes complicit in their own destruction, protecting the very illusion that destroyed them, because to expose it would mean exposing their own weakness. And so the predator continues, moving from one victim to another, perfecting the art of concealment, thriving not on strength alone, but on the human desire to believe. The weak never learn because they do not want to learn. They would rather trust another illusion than live with suspicion. And so the cycle repeats. Predators rise, veils are woven, prey is deceived, and power is claimed not by those who roar, but by those who whisper. The strong endure because they understand the veil is stronger than the sword. Violence may conquer for a moment, but deception conquers for generations. And in this truth lies the most haunting reality, that the world is not ruled by those who show their power, but by those who hide it until it is far too late. Honesty has always been painted as a noble virtue, but in the cold theater of power, honesty is a curse carried by the naive. The man who insists on truth as his guiding principle believes it will grant him respect, but what it grants instead is exposure. To be honest is to walk naked among wolves, bleeding openly in a world where scent matters more than words. The wolves do not admire the courage of the bleeding man. They follow the trail and devour him whole. This is why history remembers the honest not as victors, but as martyrs. They die for their truth, and in death they are praised, but their lives are proof of their failure. The strong understand that truth is not a gift, it is a vulnerability. Every confession, every revelation, every unguarded word becomes a weapon for someone else to use. The honest man becomes predictable, transparent, easy to dismantle because he has already given away the map of his soul. Those who cling to truth call it integrity, but integrity does not protect you from betrayal, it invites it. Others will nod at your honesty, thank you for your openness, even admire you in passing, but beneath their gratitude lies calculation. They see what you reveal, they mark the weaknesses, and they wait for the moment to strike. Honesty, in this world, is not rewarded. It is punished, exploited, and betrayed. The strong know this and refuse to give their enemies such a weapon. They lie, they conceal, they misdirect, because only by controlling the flow of truth can they remain untouchable. The weak imagine betrayal comes from lies, but the cruelest betrayals often begin with truth, because only the exposed can be pierced. The betrayal of the honest is not always sudden. Often it is a slow unraveling, a decay that begins the moment truth is spoken aloud. A man admits his fear to a friend, believing it will create trust, but one day that fear is whispered in the wrong ear, and the confession becomes currency. A leader reveals his uncertainty to advisors, and suddenly his authority weakens, his words weighed against the echo of his own doubt. A lover bears their soul, convinced that honesty will deepen connection, only to watch that vulnerability turned into leverage in the heat of conflict. This is the nature of truth when it is placed in the wrong hands. It transforms from intimacy into weaponry, from connection into chains. The honest are betrayed not because the world despises truth, but because the world cannot resist exploiting it. Power is not held by those who reveal themselves, but by those who conceal themselves. To survive, one must understand that truth must be rationed like water in a desert, not spilled carelessly into the sand. The honest man pours freely, believing there will always be more, but when the well runs dry, he discovers he has nothing left to shield himself. Betrayal arrives not because others are cruel by accident, but because cruelty is the nature of survival. In a world where everyone hungers for advantage, truth is a banquet offered to predators. And so the honest man, believing he has built bonds, discovers instead that he has built the very tools of his undoing. The strong do not make this mistake. They know that truth is currency, and to spend it carelessly is to invite poverty of power. They lie not because they despise truth, but because they know what truth costs. The final cruelty of honesty is that its betrayal does not end with others. It extends into the self. When the honest man is broken, when his words are turned against him, he begins to despise not only those who betrayed him, but also himself for giving them the weapons. Shame corrodes him, and in time he learns to silence his truth, but by then the damage is done. This is why honesty destroys more than reputations. It destroys the spirit of those who wield it blindly. The strong escape this fate because they never believed truth alone was sacred. They understood from the beginning that survival demands masks, that trust must be earned not by exposure but by testing, that words must be chosen not for purity but for protection. Lies protect not because they erase truth, but because they delay its betrayal. And in that delay lies control, power, and freedom. The honest man, once betrayed, is left empty, his faith in people shattered, his voice silenced. But the liar, the strategist, the one who cloaks his truth in shadow, he survives, endures, and rules. This is the paradox that society refuses to teach. Honesty may be moral, but morality has no teeth in a world of predators. Power belongs to those who understand betrayal as inevitable and prepare for it. To reveal truth carelessly is to beg for betrayal. To conceal it is to deny the enemy their weapon. And so the world continues to crown liars as rulers and bury the honest as martyrs. For lies protect the strong, and truth betrays those too naive to shield themselves. The most dangerous lies are not spoken to others. They are whispered to ourselves in the silence of the night. Every man, no matter how strong, carries illusions within his own mind. Stories crafted not to reveal truth, but to soften it. We tell ourselves that the people around us are loyal, that our efforts will be rewarded, that the pain we endure has meaning, that tomorrow will somehow be kinder than today. These lies are not forced upon us by predators. They are the refuge we create to survive the weight of existence. Without them, despair would gnaw us alive. But the cost of these lies is not comfort, it is blindness. When we insist that things will improve without action, we remain trapped. When we convince ourselves that betrayal will not come, we fail to prepare. When we cling to the belief that meaning will simply appear, we waste years waiting instead of forging it. The last lie we tell ourselves is that truth is too harsh to bear, when in reality it is the only weapon sharp enough to free us. The strong understand this paradox. They lie outwardly but strip themselves of illusions inwardly. They may wear masks for others, but when they face the mirror, they face it without mercy. The weak, however, do the opposite. They cling to comforting self-deceptions, wrapping themselves in blankets of hope until they suffocate beneath them. And in the end, the greatest betrayal is not from others, but from within, when we realize the life we lived was not truth but theater, a stage built from lies we told ourselves to avoid the cold edge of reality. Self-deception is seductive because it disguises itself as survival. We tell ourselves we are being patient when in truth we are paralyzed. We claim to be forgiving when in truth we are afraid to confront. We insist we are principled when in truth we are simply too weak to adapt. These lies masquerade as virtues, and because they feel noble, we cling to them with pride. The tragedy is that self-deception rots silently. It eats away at time, corroding ambition, numbing the will until nothing remains but wasted potential. The man who lies to himself does not feel the blade cutting him. He only awakens one day to realize the years are gone, his opportunities buried, his strength faded. This is why the strong treat self-deception as the enemy within. They know that an external predator can be seen, fought, resisted, but the lie within is harder to kill. It speaks in our own voice, cloaked in our own reasoning, woven into our own identity. To resist, it requires a brutality few can endure, the willingness to face oneself without flinching. The strong embrace this brutality because they know that illusions are cages. To kill the lies within is to open the door to freedom. But most people never open that door. They live entire lives comforted by illusions they mistake for truth, defending their own chains as though they were treasures. This is why the last lie is so cruel, because it convinces us we are awake while we are still dreaming. The last lie we tell ourselves is that there is still time. Time to change, time to fight, time to become what we were meant to be. This illusion keeps us still while the years pass in silence, while opportunities vanish into the void. We wake each morning promising ourselves tomorrow will be different, yet tomorrow arrives wearing the same mask as yesterday. The strong know this and refuse the lie. They live with the awareness that every day is a narrowing corridor, every choice a door that closes behind them forever. This awareness sharpens them, forces them to act, to seize, to cut through hesitation. The weak, however, cradle the illusion of infinite time until life itself betrays them. They arrive at the end with regret as their only companion, realizing too late that their greatest enemy was not deception from others, but the lies they nurtured within. This is the cruelest truth, that while predators can be resisted and betrayals can be endured, the lies we tell ourselves are the most fatal of all. For they rob us not of possessions, not of power, but of life itself. And so the faceless warning echoes, strip away the veil you wear for yourself, or you will die with the comfort of lies and the torment of wasted years. Lies protect the strong, but only because the strong know which lies to tell and which ones to kill.